Tokyo, a vast metropolis that seems to have no end. As you're speeding through on the train, it might look like a mass of concrete with no soul. But no, Tokyo is a feast for the senses. Garish one minute, spiritual the next. There literally is nowhere in the world quite like it. Tokyo is one of my favourite cities, although more accurately it's a collection of 23 different cities, each of those subdivided into districts and neighbourhoods that have their own unique personality. Over the course of a few days I'm going to run around and try and give you a flavour of the most popular areas. I've purchased my top-up Suica pass, so it's time to explore. Harajuku on a Sunday, the place to see Japanese fashion in all its glory. Streets, expect lots of pink and loads of sugar. This is Harajuku's famous Cat Street, which seems to have every single designer label known to man. The side streets though, they're much more interesting. This is the most important Shinto shrine in the whole of Tokyo. It deifies Emperor Meiji and his wife. Now, it was Emperor Meiji who ended Japan's isolationist period in the mid-19th century, taking power from the last great shogun. It was the emperor who changed this city's name from Edo to Tokyo, which means Eastern Capital, and the city has gone on from strength to strength ever since. This is where you find out whether you're going to have good fortune or bad fortune. These little tablets are called Emma. This is where you make your wish and then pray for it to come true. This is where you buy your sacred amulets. You can have everything from divine protection through to more mundane matters, like a safe trip, good fortune in your exams, or just plain old matrimonial happiness. Who says you can't find peace and quiet in the very heart of Tokyo? Now let's go and see some rockabilly dancing. No, I'm not joking. Ginza is all about style. This is where you're most likely to see an elegant kimono being worn on the street. It's always been Tokyo's premier shopping district. The huge Mitsukoshi department store has been here for 90 years. And if you're visiting, I highly recommend going down to the basement, where the food hall is incredible. The district of Marunouchi is where you'll find both Tokyo Station and the Imperial Palace. Now, you can't actually visit the palace, but the gardens are well worth coming to escape the hustle and bustle of the city. In this area, you could sometimes be forgiven for thinking that you've been transported to France or Germany, perhaps. The reason is that under Emperor Meiji in the late 19th century, as Japan was opening up, many European architects were brought in to assist with the construction and development of the city. It doesn't matter that he's destroyed their city many times over. Tokyoites still love Godzilla. This little chap is more like baby Godzilla though. You can find him a few blocks from Ginza's main street and just south of Ueno train station. As well as the usual statues and t-shirts, they were also selling Godzilla curry. Not sure what that's made of. Tokyo's ambient noise level is in decibels. At times it must be stratospheric. If Tokyo's becoming a bit too frenetic, then you need to find a green space. And this is one of the best, the Harajuku Gardens. For 300 yen, you can escape the crowds and hear birdsong above the traffic. Much like Bill Murray in Lost in Translation, I spent my first night in Tokyo trying and failing to get any sleep. So here I am at 6 in the morning at Asakusa, one of Tokyo's hottest tourist spots. For the moment it's all quiet. That will change. This is the oldest and most important Buddhist temple in Tokyo, Senso-ji, dedicated to Kannon, or Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva of compassion. Legend has it that in the 7th century, 2 local fishermen found a beautiful statue of Kannon in the river. They brought it back, a temple was created around it, and in the following centuries that complex has simply grown and grown. Demonstrating how entwined the 2 belief systems are in Japan, the Asakusa Shrine is a Shinto shrine within the temple grounds. The deities of this shrine are the 2 fishermen who found the Kannon statue. It's a beautifully peaceful place at this time of the morning. It's hard to believe that you're right in the centre of Tokyo. The long street leading to the temple is lined with kiosks for food and souvenirs, and although it all looks very modern, records show that it was here in the 18th century, doing just as much of a busy trade to the pilgrims of those days. At the entrance to the temple is the Thunder Gate, flanked by two fearsome protector deities. I told you it got really busy, even on a day like today. If you've always fancied dressing up as a geisha, then this is definitely the place to do it. Yes, I know they're fake, but they're very photogenic. I think I prefer it at 7 in the morning. It's a bit more tranquil. This is called a sweet uji matcha dessert, all washed down with green hot matcha tea. Okay, if I had to describe that dish in one word, that word would probably be, no, definitely be gooey. Never has the word gooey felt more appropriate for anything. This is the world's busiest station, Shinjuku. On a weekday, up to 3.5 million people pass through here. That is staggering. To put that in some kind of perspective, that is more than the entire population of Chicago, or Greater Manchester, or Madrid, or the entire country of Slovenia. Shinjuku is a centre of business, shopping and pleasure, and it's always really busy. The best place to get above the crowds, especially on a clear day like today, is the Tokyo Metropolitan Assembly Building. Best of all, it's free. Welcome to the 45th floor. From up here, not only can you see how densely populated Tokyo is, but also how it extends as far as the eye can see in all directions. On Sundays, the traffic is stopped and the people take over. This is where Tokyo comes to party, the notorious pleasure district called Kabukicho. This is called Godzilla Road, so the big question is, where is he? But there he is, peering over the cinema. But even here, walk down a few alleyways, turn some corners, and you can still find some peace. I've walked out of the tourist area and I'm going to try a quiet neighbourhood restaurant that specialises in tempura. Now, doesn't that look amazing? It's almost a cliche. You'll have seen it in every single Tokyo promotional video, but you have to come here at least once. It's the pedestrian crossing, the most famous pedestrian crossing in the world, at Shibuya. But once you've seen the crossing, is there much else to see in Shibuya, apart from shopping? Well, probably not. Except for a dog, of course. This is Hachiko, the most famous dog in Tokyo. It's said that Hachiko waited for his master for many, many years after his death on this spot by Shibuya Station. This is Tokyo at its noisiest. No Zen gardens around here. Actually, it's not all teenage fashion. Muji has its flagship store here, and I love this place, Tokyu Hands. It calls itself a creative life store. Basically, it has all sorts of things, and yet very few that you've ever seen before or ever thought you needed. Well, it's great to see that the huge Tower Records is still alive and kicking. I could be some time. Roppongi's attractions are all fairly modern and generally involve shopping, but not all of them. This is the huge commercial centre known as Roppongi Hills, but I'm not here for the shopping, I'm here for the art. But before all that, I'm thinking lunch. Maybe soba noodles with tofu and tempura. Eating out in Tokyo is not prohibitively expensive, especially at lunchtime. That delicious set meal was only 1,300 yen. Wasn't expected to become part of the artwork myself. The largest electronics bazaar anywhere on the planet. This is Akihabara. This place can make you feel a bit like that. This is also the centre of the phenomenon known as maid cafes. Now these are cafes where young women dressed as maids treat their generally male clientele as if they were aristocracy. Some say it's a must-do in Tokyo. Personally, I think I'll pass. However, that doesn't mean that I'm not going to try a crazy cafe. Now, I didn't know what Gundam was, but apparently it's a hugely popular Japanese animation about large robots. Anyway, I suddenly had to choose my favourite character for the coffee stencil, so, well, in a panic I just chose Gundam. If it's the full Blade Runner experience that you want, then you need to come back after sunset. Odaiba is like no other district in Tokyo. It was built on an artificial island out in Tokyo Bay, and to me resembles more Dubai, although today it's cold and wet. The ride alone makes it worthwhile. as you come on the Yorikamone line, which is an automated system and takes you right over the Rainbow Bridge with fantastic views of Tokyo Harbour. You also then come into sight of the enormous Ferris wheel. I've come out here to see Borderless, an installation by Team Lab, a Japanese visual arts collective. How do I even begin to describe that? A long hallucinogenic experience, maybe? Well, you'll get lost, you will walk into mirrors, but you will never ever forget it. Team Lab is right next door to the Venus Fort Mall. Now, if you've been to Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas, then I think you'll recognise the aesthetic here. Inside Venus Fort, there's a brilliant classic car museum. Thanks to Toyota, it's free. They've even got my old DeLorean here. This beautiful little car changed history. In 1957 it became the first ever Japanese car to enter motorsports. You'll also find here Toyota City Showcase, surely the largest car showroom in the world. So this is what the future looks like. From the station, you might think that Ueno is just a large mass of concrete, but no, it has one of the largest green spaces in the city, and it's also home to the Tokyo National Museum. This is the Toshogu Shrine. It's dedicated to the founder of the Tokugawa shogunate, the most powerful shogun period in the whole of Japan's history. The Lonely Planet guide says that if you only visit one museum in Tokyo, make it this one. And I think they're right. It's also got a great museum shop. The cafe, wow, my set meal of sashimi, miso soup and tempura was absolutely outstanding. So that's it, I've run out of time, and that's without seeing the Tokyo Tower, the Sky Tree, the Sumo, the Cherry Blossom, the Olympics, or a million other things. Frankly, to see everything in Tokyo, you'd need several lifetimes. Now, with apologies for my terrible Japanese, Tokyo, domo arigatou gozaimasu, sayonara.